Last week was Genshin Impact's 1-year anniversary. The game originally came out on September 27th, 2020, and it changed the world forever. Well, maybe that's a bit of an overstatement, but it did change a lot of things. It showed the industry what a free-to-play game could be, what a gacha game could do. And over the course of this year, we've seen a lot of updates, a lot of events, a lot of long-time support. At the same time, last year when the game first came out, there were a couple of things that this game was missing that at least I would assume at this point would have been taken care of. So that's what this video is all about, a retrospective look at what Genshin Impact has accomplished as well as what's left to accomplish. Welcome to Tevat, the world of Genshin Impact, 1 year later. When the game first came out, I think everyone was incredibly impressed, but also worried. How come something that looked this good, was this big, and actually fun, was free? There had to be some catch, and there was. The game's a gacha, which is a dirty word for a game that will exploit the crap out of your wallet, and even if it looks friendly at first, it will eventually lead you down a path of either too much money spent or way too much time. And in a way, that was definitely true with Genshin Impact. Once you were done with the story, even though there was still a lot to see in the world, all that was left to do was level up, get better gear, and try to clear the endgame content known as the Spiral Abyss. And this is when the game became a really painful grind. In true gacha fashion, leveling up at the start was very easy, but became grindy really quick. And there was only a set amount of things that you could grind each day thanks to this game's stamina system called resin. On top of the grind, there were the insane drop rates for people trying to pull for a specific character, spending thousands of dollars and still not getting the character they wanted. Now, I think a fair share of the criticism at launch wasn't deserved. I agree that the game got too grindy, I won't argue with you there, but as far as pulling for a character goes, they've always been very explicit about drop rates. They have one of the best pity systems I have ever seen in a game like this. I really believe that the early outrage about drop rates was because this game brought a lot of new people to this genre. People who had no idea what gacha games were like. And over time, I think people became a bit more educated on how this whole thing works. And look, I hate random pulls as much as you do, but they're here to stay. The market has spoken, and largely the players are okay with this. And in Genshin's defense, the drop rates aren't that bad. The problem is when you're chasing a specific character. At launch, for instance, everyone wanted Diluc. They spent thousands of dollars trying to get Diluc. I still don't have Diluc, but that's fine. Because the game has given me so much, so the sooner you stop looking for that one specific character and start working with what you have, with what the game gives you, the sooner you'll enjoy the game and stop being frustrated at drop rates. The grind to level up was still a problem though, and it still is to a certain degree. This is a game built around pulling for new characters, which is exciting while at the same time punishing you for picking up someone new, because leveling up a character from scratch is such an investment. But they did address the issue. They didn't fix it completely, but made some quality of life changes to make the grind a little less painful. They increased the resin cap from 120 to 160, which looks like a small change, but that allowed players to log in once a day, take care of everything, and only worry about the game the next day. They also added weekly resin discounts, so you can always clear the most expensive bosses at half the price. But the biggest change was probably the condensed resin.
Tired of grinding for those artifacts and weapon materials? Tired of doing the same dungeon over and over just to find what you actually need? Now you can get twice as much for every run! Introducing condensed resin! It's like 2 for the price of 1! You spend double the resin but get double the rewards! Condensed resin, get it now!
But here's the thing that I learned about Genshin Impact. Why do we want to level up? Why do we want to make our character stronger? It's obviously so you can deal more damage, but if the whole world of Genshin Impact levels up with you, there's only really one place where you're getting stronger, and that's the Spiral Abyss. Now, we care about clearing the Spiral Abyss because it gives you a ton of rewards that you can use for more gacha pulls, but in my opinion, the Abyss is the biggest flaw this game hasn't fixed since launch. And there's nothing inherently wrong with the Abyss itself, it's a cool challenge, but it cannot be the only endgame that exists. And currently, that is the case, and it has been for a year now. When the game first came out, they had a promise of releasing multiplayer raids at some point in a future update. And you can see them constantly trying out new mechanics and ideas that could be merged together into something that looks like a raid. And I honestly thought the Abyss was going to end up being just some side thing, and the real endgame was still coming. Now, they do update the Abyss from time to time, so it's not stale, the floors look different, the buffs are different. But at the end of the day, it is a horde mode. It is clearing waves of enemies, which to me just isn't as interesting as an actual raid. I would love to play a dungeon that you explore, that you clear platforming puzzles, that you clear actual puzzles, as well as have combat encounters in multiplayer with a difficulty level that is close to the abyss. That is the endgame I would love to see, and that's the endgame that they're promising, but they just haven't gotten there yet. And it is so interesting how this game's problems fade away once you stop caring about the abyss. You don't need to grind to level up, you don't need to grind to get better artifacts, because you don't need to get stronger. The story, the exploration, the world, it's all there for you to enjoy, and you can just live the adventure. And there's a lot to live through. Now, make no mistake, I definitely think this game needs an endgame that is not the abyss, and it needs more multiplayer stuff because the domains, the weekly bosses, that just gets old really fast. I definitely expected to have all that stuff already 1 year in. And to me, not having that endgame, those multiplayer raids, is probably the biggest flaw that Genshin Impact still hasn't updated. That said, as far as updates go, I definitely did not expect so many. This year had some big expansions. Most of them were story related, unlocking new arc and quest chapters. And the lore just keeps expanding in really interesting ways. I don't know when was the last time a game held my interest narratively over the course of a year. This almost seasonal way of delivering story doesn't always work out for games, but Genshin Impact somehow pulls it off really well. And as far as major updates go, we got the new mountain area, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but it still had its fair share of world puzzles and quests that I found enjoyable. The completion of Chapter 1, the full Liyue arc, was amazing. The arc on quests are always highlights of this game for me. Complete with interesting quests, new characters introduced, amazing cutscenes and boss fights, and completely voice acted in multiple languages. These updates have a AAA quality of production, and you can enjoy it all for free, without having to grind, without having to pull for characters. I think we're really spoiled when it comes to that. Next came a timed event where you could explore this huge archipelago, a new area that would slowly unveil itself throughout the duration of this event. Huge bodies of water, world puzzles, and this area is now gone. It was a timed event, and lore-wise they justified why these islands show up only to disappear again, but it rewards players who return to the game once in a while with a ton of content that they're then willing to just completely shut down after pouring so much time and resources into building it. It keeps Genshin Impact unpredictable on what they're gonna do next. A few smaller updates came through, like the character quests with multiple outcomes depending on dialogue choices, a house building system, which I'll be honest, I haven't looked much into this. Doesn't seem like a lot of fun, but maybe I just haven't put in the time yet. And then the big expansion came. Genshin 2.0, introducing the third major area in Azuma, giving off a completely different vibe, a people with a different culture, different rules, more story stuff, more world puzzles and quests, an area so rich with content, and once again, all free. The 2.0 expansion also added a PS5 version for the game, so PS5 players could finally enjoy short loading screens. And it also enabled cross-save between PlayStation and other platforms, so we no longer have to choose where we're gonna be active because we can just be everywhere. This is an update that I wasn't sure we were ever going to see, given how stubborn Sony is about making their games cross anything. But Genshin Impact pulled it off, surpassing my expectations. That said, where is the Switch version? The game still hasn't come out on Switch, something they announced at launch they would be doing later. It will come to Switch later. Well, now it's a year later and still no Switch version. What the hell? Which brings us back to the point of this entire video. In the first year of Genshin Impact, I think it has surpassed all expectations as far as updates go. They've delivered more than anyone was expecting, and none of it is behind a paywall because the gacha stuff is doing very well for them. So all updates have been absolutely free. I mean, you see AAA games doing DLC all the time. Every time there's a new area, hey, $30. The fact that we're getting so much for free is kind of insane. That said, a couple of things that I expected to see within the first year still haven't happened. The big ones being endgame content besides the Spiral Abyss and the Nintendo Switch version. Personally, I'm not gonna play on Nintendo Switch, so I don't really care. But they did promise it, and I think at the very least they should give out a release date. I absolutely love this game, and I am able to overlook a lot of its problems. I'm not saying they don't exist, they're not there, I do acknowledge them and I wish it was better. But they end up not bothering me probably because what I'm looking for and what I enjoy doing isn't the stuff that you see content creators doing all the time, which ends up influencing how a lot of this player base plays the game. I don't care about new characters. Look at this collection, I have more characters than I can play with. What I love doing is collecting stuff, exploring the world, doing the main quests, the side quests. I do feel some sort of pressure every time I log in. I feel like I need to be spending my resin and doing my daily quests, otherwise I'm wasting time. But that's just a me problem. I'm not wasting time because I'm doing what I enjoy doing in Genshin. It doesn't matter if my resin is capped, I don't care about the abyss. All I care about is the lore, the puzzles, the stories, and if I can make peace with that in my mind, then I can just enjoy all of that at my own pace. And the game is still 100% free if that's all I want to do. Most of this community's frustrations come from the gacha system, from either the random pools or how grindy the higher levels are. And what I think that does is all the work and content that is being delivered ends up being overlooked. People are constantly wondering what the next banner is going to be, what characters have a higher drop rate for a limited amount of time, that they don't have the time to stop and enjoy the cool stuff that this game has available. How many of you have done the Trails of Tianchu world quest? Interacting with this random stone tablet opens up 3 different rooms in the ruins, each one of them with a puzzle or a challenge to solve. And this has been available since day 1. It's been here all along, and I guarantee you, people looking at the banners are looking at how to optimize their daily resin, how to increase their adventure rank. That really cool quests like this fall to the sidelines, and there are dozens of them spread throughout the world. Discovering random stuff like this while exploring the world was what made Breath of the Wild such an amazing experience. But if Breath of the Wild had a gacha system where you could pull for Princess Zelda, then that part of it, the exploration, the feeling of discovery that made it a game of the year, that would be largely ignored too. And that's how I feel about Genshin Impact. It was quite the journey throughout this year, learning how I could enjoy the game as a free-to-play player, and turns out that all I had to do was not care about the abyss and the gacha drops, and suddenly I have so much content to enjoy for free, and I love it. And that's my experience with Genshin Impact. It's come a long way in a year and it's not showing any signs of slowing down, but I'd love to hear what your experience was like. Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku and I'll see you next time. Bye!